amazing day at fmtraining.tv. My name is Margaret. I'm here with the wonderful Nick Hunter to discuss the fantastic and lovely FileMaker platform. Hello, everyone. Good to see you guys. We have Nick. Nick Hunter is one of the best, if not the best, UI UX design guy in FileMaker and a fantastic senior engineer. And he's been giving us a very long series, which will be ongoing for quite a while, about how to use UI and UX, both for beginner and intermediate, which we're currently kind of covering, and also later advanced. Currently in the beginner and intermediate section, we are on iPads, which is a very interesting topic because iPad design is notoriously a bit more, I would say, you got less area space to work with, so it'll be very interesting to hear what Nick has to say about that. We've got that for today, tomorrow, and Thursday. Friday's going to be an open FileMaker server Q&A. If you have questions, please bring them. If you would like to support the channel, we would greatly appreciate it. We're on button. There we go. We have the FM Training annual subscription bundle. It is 100+ hours of really high energy video content. Richard is a presenter, Nick is a presenter. Pretty much if you want to go from being like, I know nothing about FileMaker to being a confident intermediate developer capable of carrying out your own projects, watch this. It pretty much covers all you need to know. With that being said, welcome everyone. I do watch all of the questions. If you've got questions, please ask them. I will forward them on to Nick if I can. With that being said, I think we're good. So, Nick.
Yes.
What are we doing today?
Hello, everybody. Let me arrange a little bit my screen here. So thank you, Margaret, for this introduction. Always good. And so thank you, everybody, for joining today. I'm back in California for some time, and so that's why you see the wall on the back. And it's good to be back home sometime. And so I'm going to enjoy my time here before I go back. And so today we are going to start the new series of 2 weeks, right? 1 week will be about the iPad, and the second week will be about the iPhone. Okay, so the design and how to build layout for iPad and how to build layout for iPhone, right? So I prefer to start with the iPad and then end with iPhone, right? Because there's many difference between them both. There's much less difference between desktop and iPad than you have between iPad and iPhone. So, and today we're going to start talking about things that I'm going to confirm, and I'm going to explain what I'm talking often and what people I think don't get because I was lacking demonstration, right? So that being said, explaining design for iPad, that will answer many of the questions. Okay, so the first thing, so I want to show that on the camera, right? So let me bring my camera that I can see myself. Okay, so this an iPad. So you have different iPad. You have the iPad Pro, the big one, right? And you have this one, which is a regular, right, the 10-inch. And you have or 11-inch. I don't know. This is an iPad. Okay, you have the iPad Mini, right? And then you have the iPhone. Okay, this is iPhone. Okay, so and you have the desktop. Okay, so I'm going to start explaining what makes every single of those devices unique, and how you cannot treat them the same way, right? The three of them: the desktop, iPad, and iPhone, right? They are really different. Okay, so let's start with the desktop. So pretty much let's start with how everything started. Okay, we started in 1984 with a new concept, right? The mouse, right? The keyboard, a detached keyboard, detached. Okay, now it's wireless, but in the time we had the wire, right? But now it's wireless, but still it's detached. Mouse and keyboard, all connected to a CPU with a screen. In that time, a very tiny, small screen like this. Okay. Then the interaction between the human, the user, to please David Angel, I think is him. The interaction between the human being and the machine was through this. This was moving something on the screen, and by clicking, it was selecting, opening, playing, dragging, right? Click, drag. I remember at the beginning of 1985, 86, I tried to explain that to my cousin, and she never got it. So the click and drag, right? It's impossible. So it was very difficult at that time. So that was the interaction. And that the interaction we had since recently, right? Since 2010, this came in 2010 and this came in 2007. It's not that old, right? It's not that old. And this came 2010, so it's 12 years old. So in April 2010. So what makes the difference between, those devices? The screen, now we have very big screen. In my office here, I have a 35-inch screen, right? 35-inch screen, a big one like this. It's a giant screen, right? And and I have a mouse like this, right? So I can, I have to put the mouse, the track speed very fast, because otherwise I need two years to go from one spot to another. So we have big screen, okay. Big screen, and this, right, is far from the screen, and it's in the hand. So we have that in the hand, and this one too, right? What's the difference between our computer, desktop, right? Even a laptop, it's the same different, right? And this, the computer like I have now, I have from me and the computer, I have that distance. I have an arm of distance, pretty much an arm. Okay, this. So this is, see, okay. So the distance between my body, my eyes, and the screen is pretty much an arm. Okay. The distance between my body, my eyes, and the iPad is this. It's like a hand. It's like this. We never do iPad like this. We don't. And that's the reason why we don't have, touch screen, desktop touch screen never worked, because you can't do, you can't stand like this, with the hand, stand like this. You can't, right? So we have a much natural behavior with this, right? So the interaction is different. We have that in one hand, right, or in the stand, and we touch it like this, okay, and we are very close, okay, and the surface, it's small. It's much smaller than the screen, especially with 35-inch screen. I can put like a 10 of those. Okay. So the difference is the distance between the eyes and the device. The difference is the interaction between the human, right, and the device. That makes all the difference, right? That makes all the difference. It's extremely different. That reason, you cannot build layouts like you were doing on the desktop and an iPad. I mean, you can have you can build a layout for desktop, right? That will work on the iPad, but you need to think it for an iPad. I don't know if you noticed that since I think 4 years now, 4 or 5 years, we have a lot of design paradigm that merged between the touch world that merged into the desktop world. Big icons, big stuff, big menu, big, everything big, everything bigger. The buttons are bigger, the fonts are bigger, everything bigger, right? We have much more touch-like interaction, especially in the upper world, okay? Because we have this, but also because we're using, like I use here, a laptop, and we have trackpad. You notice that in the past, the trackpad were like this, tiny little like this, right? And at one point, IBM, they had a little chinky like this, I don't know how they were calling this. It's a button. It was one button, right, like this. I don't remember the name of this. Help me. The IBM stuff. The point, in the middle of the keyboard, you have like a pink button like this. You were moving it. We have now on the laptop, we have big giant trackpad. Pretty much, the trackpad is bigger than my iPhone on my laptop here, right? The trackpad is like this, So we have a lot of touch design paradigms, design principles that coming from the touch world to the desktop world, right? Big icon, large text, more and more and more, okay? But that's the reason why. That's the reason why. Is because, first of all, it's an economic reason. It costs less, right, to do that way. I explain you why. If you build a layout for iPad, you build it thinking iPad, you build it, it will work perfectly without shocking anybody. It will work perfectly on the desktop. Perfectly. If you build a layout for iPad on FileMaker, right? If you build a layout for iPad, it will work perfectly on desktop. Perfectly. If you build a layout for desktop, thinking desktop, it won't work on iPad. It won't. Don't even try. I mean, you can try if you want, but it won't work because you will go small thing, tiny things, right? So close to each other, a list view, small, right? So why it doesn't work? Okay, it's because you need to think about many things. First, the pointer. So we call that a pointer. The pointer, it's the point of contact between the human and the graphical interface. That's a point. The pointer on the desktop is this, is the point of an arrow. Small, tiny, is 1 pixel point. You have, with this, you have 1 pixel precision pointing. Okay. With an iPad, I'm not talking about the stencil, right? I'm not talking about this. This is very different. The stencil is very different. So with an iPad, the natural pointer is this, the finger. And it's not 1 pixel. It's much more than 1 pixel. So you need to know that when you tap something with a finger, make sure that you're not going to tap like 2 buttons or 3 buttons, you know, and to make sure that you can easily select a text, right? So the pointer is what makes the difference. Okay, here, the pointer. That big difference. And the other big difference you have with an iPad and a desktop, right? It's the keyboard. Yes, because the keyboard, right? Imagine you build a layout for FileMaker, right? And you put this in your screen. Okay, you put that in your screen. In your screen, you have this. So when you edit a field, imagine that you cover your screen with this. Okay. You will have another way of thinking if that would have been the case on the desktop. Fortunately, on the desktop, this is separated and it's not going to be on the layout, right? But on the iPad, unless you add, you know, an external keyboard, but on an iPad, the natural way is to get the keyboard popping on the screen. And on iPad, when you do this, right, it's taking you half the screen or a quarter, okay, of a screen. So when you do a layout and you don't think that you might, at some point, if you want to edit things, right, you will get the layouts, 1/3 or half of it gone, the real estate, during the time you edit the field. You need to make sure that you have a layout clear enough, right, to show, to not, lose your users, right? So that's very important. So do we have any questions so far? The track point, yeah, good, David. So do we have question, Mark?
We do not. Sorry, I had double mute going on. We do not have any questions so far. So looks like people are watching.
Okay. So I know it's theoretical, but I must explain that to people. Okay, I must explain that, right? So that's very important, right? So because otherwise, you won't understand the reason behind things, right? So now I want to continue things. Why the distance between the human and the machine is very important. Why? So you have many things connected, but we talk about the pointer, we talk about the keyboard, and now we are going to talk about the distance between the human being and the machine. Why this is important is because the vision, the angle of vision is not the same. So when you're on a computer, you have a wide angle of vision, right? You concentrate on one area, but you can still see the thing there, okay? But you can, when you're far, okay, you can, with your eyes easily, you can select like squares, right? Areas. when you closer to your, you have one vision. The computer, I focus, for example, on the top left corner, and I can see like this of my screen, right? So this, on my screen, when my screen is like this. So I can select a spot and visually concentrate there. That's why sometimes when you have complicated layouts on the layout on the FileMaker, you have your user browsing like this. They browse, with the pointer. They look for, oh, where is the button? Where, they do like this, right? They browse. They browse like this, right? Because you don't have a vision, a global vision on your laptop or desktop computer, because the distance. So you browse. That's why when you think of layouts, you remember I told you need to get things standing out, make things when you want to attract, the eye, right? When you want to force somebody to go somewhere and make obvious for them to see, right? So you need to what's the name? You need to play with this visually, because on the desktop, the person won't have a global vision. So when you don't have a global vision, you need something that that will pop on your face to make sure you go there first. And the best way, to me, and in the design world, the best way to attract the vision of somebody is to remove from the site everything that is not necessary at that point, and point him, like, well, click here, right there, and you remove everything. And then when he clicks, you show what he needs to see next, right? We call that progressive UI. And that concept of progressive UI is even more important on the iPad, and even more important on the iPhone. Okay. So why the distance is different? Because here you cannot select things. You cannot select an area. You see all, practically all, okay? Because you like this and you see all. You have one vision because you close enough. That's why we don't do this, and that's why this is not comfortable. When it's far, it's not comfortable because it doesn't feel right. Here it feels right. So, and you have one vision, right, of the entire screen, and you can read things, but your brain and your angular vision is global. Okay. So now you understand the complexity of building an iPad layouts especially with FileMaker, because you need to consider all those paradigms. The screen that goes away with the because of the keyboard, the pointer. So you cannot make a list view like a list view where you can click the row, right? You can't. And the distance. And the distance is affecting also how many objects we can absorb, digest in one vision. You cannot toss everything on your layouts on an iPad. You cannot because it's cumbersome, it's complicated. It will be like where I'm going. There's so many things, right, that people get confused and things start to be unusable. The other thing of exposing too many things on the layout is what we call accidentability. When you have an iPad, you increase your accidentability by a lot compared to a desktop. Accidentability is like, you type and you launch something. Okay. So for example, if you have a delete all button without any warning on your desktop layout, that's not wise, but that could be okay if the button is on the other side of the layout. Delete all button without, you click it, delete all, 10,000 records gone. Okay. With all the related records. Imagine this. Okay. But imagine you have there. So you imagine the accidentability. And that's why, okay, if you go now in your, contacts and stuff like that, to delete the contact is complicated. You need to edit the contact, and on the bottom of the list, you have delete button. Because it's not accidental. It cannot be something like this cannot be accidental. You need to edit the contact record, drag, scroll the screen down and press delete and say yes. Okay, so accidentability is, or you have the slide delete button. We don't have that on FileMaker. We can have half of it, and I'm going to show you that during this week. We don't have the slide, but we have the almost there. Okay, it's a way we can do that to show up a delete button when we need. Okay, so accidentability, and the other thing when you have a lot of things on your layouts, right, on iPhone, right, is that it's not easy to use. It's cumbersome. When you have a lot of fields, right, it's cumbersome, right? The best way, when you edit things. So let's talk about a little bit before I share my screen. Let's talk a little bit about sharing things. Editing things. So sorry, editing fields, right? Entering data, like how we say that, entering data. Okay. Why is it cumbersome to edit and modifying data with an iPad? It is. Let's be honest. Let's face it. It's a consumption device. It's not a creation device. Point. It's not an editing device. The only way to get edition and modification of a record that to be a good experience on an iPad is to prevent it. Is to not that you don't have to make it. Let me explain this. When you want to edit data, the best way is to tap a button, not type things. Typing is not good. Typing on iPad, typing is not good. Yeah, you can enter name, you can enter first name, last name, enter birthday, but you cannot do more. So what you need to do is make sure that editing, entering of data, it's easy to do. So we have lists, we have buttons, right? The value list. The value list, it's not easy to use when you have a lot of things, right? You understand, So I'm going to show that the value list is not good. The best way is to do what I'm doing. because I'm taking that from the iPad from developers, because I'm following designers and developers from the iPad world, and from the touch world. They are very different. You know that at FileMaker or Apple, a computer developer or designer is not an iPad designer. It's not. It's or iPhone. And they're very distinct. They're very distinct people, by the way. And they don't like each other pretty much. So no, it's true. They are separated. Okay. What they do is not what they do, and what they do is not what they do. Okay, so it's very, very, very. So it's a strange world, right? But talking to that people and following those people the advice, FileMaker doesn't make any exception. It's not because we're in FileMaker that we can say, oh, okay, Nick, everything you talk about since half an hour, we don't give a damn because we are in FileMaker. If you think like this, you make a mistake, because you can be on FileMaker, on Discord, be on whatever, okay? The device the same, the finger the same, the keyboard will pop up on the screen, and you will see it like this. Being FileMaker or not being FileMaker doesn't make any difference. Okay, actually, it's worse with FileMaker, because FileMaker it gets something that you don't do with any other application like you're going to use on this, is the modification and editing of data, because you don't have a lot of, when you enter a form, when you go on the website, for example, and you have to enter a form made for desktop, and you have to do it on an iPhone or on an iPad. Sometimes you tell you, oh, it's terrible. It's terrible. You don't see the thing, the keyboard hide where you were, you don't know where you are, you don't know which field you edited. I know you experience that, right? Especially on this, right? Especially on this. Try to use a website for desktop on this, that's the same. You can, but it's not the best experience. The same for the iPad. Now I'm going to enter the crust of the subject, right? Okay. So if I tell you that layout, it's perfectly working on an iPad, perfectly working on an iPad. This, because I'm following all the rules of an iPad, except for some tiny exceptions that I'm going to explain. This layout works on an iPad. Okay, so because we are, pretty much using all the touch device guidelines in principle in that layout. The first is to make sure that we don't display a lot of things on screen. Okay, so you remember I told you remove the buttons, right? Buttons. Remove everything that's not necessary, like the editing of an address, right? We don't need to edit an address all the time, like I don't know. When you want to call a user on your phone, for example, you want to send an email to a person on your iPad. Do you see the email of the guy? No, you don't. You have the first name, last name. You show that the guy and say, okay, send an email. But you don't type. You don't want to see his email, right? So the same here. We have the email here, but it's not the most important. We want to send, right? We want to send an email, right? The email address we don't care because we never remember it, right? So we care when we enter it or when we share it, copy paste, whatever. But at the usage we don't need, right? All of those things, I think you need to learn to do, and you need to learn the reason why. You need to learn the rules. The rule here is to get the minimum possible editable on screen. The minimum possible. The best is to get layouts for browsing and the layout for editing. That is the best. Upper does that. If you go to the if you go to the contacts in your iPad, right? So this is what you get. Okay, so I'm sure I'll try to share on my screen here. Let me try sharing here. So this is right, the contacts. So this is what you see on the contacts layout on your iPad, right? So you have buttons on top, right? You have buttons, message, principal, video, and sorry, I didn't change the language of my iPad to English, but it's in Spanish, but it's okay. So you can, you have buttons on top, right? Buttons. You can see the phone, and if you can see it because we have the real estate, because there's nothing. But let's say we don't have the real estate here, right? We need to send, we need to call. You don't care about the number. What you need to do is to to send a message or pay, or so you have things here. And we can't edit anything here. Okay, we can't edit nothing here, right? If you want to edit, you have this button, and here you see that everything changed. We are in edit mode, right? We can cancel. Here we are in play mode, and here we are in edit mode. So you see the presentation is totally different. We in FileMaker have the tendency of making the economy of this. So that being said, it depends what you want to do. You want to do the thing right, or you want to do the thing cheap. It's two things different. The right thing is to do this. You have a layout with an organization made to display things that the user can be comfortable to see, to play, to recognize, and to use in the use mode. And then you have the edit mode, right? Where everything is made. I don't know what can be. Everything is made to get things easy to edit. Now, I want you to appreciate something here that's very important. Everything is aligned. Everything is aligned, and you have nothing side by side. Absolutely nothing side by side, right? It's everything here. Yeah, you have the postal code, okay. But you know what I mean. It's everything is aligned and vertical in one column, okay? So you know what I mean? It's everything aligned, everything is in one column, and we use the entire width of the screen to edit things. You know, when you do it here, you type here, right? And you can type all the thing. You understand now what I was talking about, the keyboard, right? So when you tap here, you have the keyboard popping on top of it, right? So when you're there and you tap here, see, let's say I'm going to tap here on this here. If I tap here, right, it's moving up. So everything moves up. So you need to make sure that when you build your layouts, right, you need to try those things that make sure that you can edit things easily, right? So that being said, you know, in FileMaker, when we build things for iPad, iPhone, right? The big difference is this, right? Is the edits and using edit, right? Editing, using. It's very different. So I want to create a new. Oh yeah, but I don't have the starter solution here. They remove them, right? Yeah, they remove them. They put their own stuff, which is a piece of garbage. Events management. I don't know if I have it. So here, that's the starter solution I built when I was at FileMaker in 2011. Okay. So it's 11 years old, and we see they're still very modern. So why I'm popping up this? In that time, okay, so it's a project status solution, right? So we have task, we can add task like this, right? In that time, I was working with the designers over there, and I was learning it was my learning curve, my learning process of learning design. And you can see that now it's modern, but at that time it was completely revolutionary, because we weren't building things like this in the FileMaker world for desktop, right? In that time, the FileMaker desktop application were, like 2,000 buttons and tiny pores like this, everything like Excel, like columns, right? And labels, a lot of labels, everything labeled, everything complicated. The oldest people, they can remember that. I built something like this. I built abominations like this, so I can talk about this, right? So, but this and that time were extremely modern. What I'm showing right now, and that's the desktop version, right? So let me show you now the iPad version of it. Okay. This is the iPad version. This is a desktop version. iPad, desktop. So you see what happened here. What happened here? It happened that this is built for widescreen. So we have two columns, right? One column here and one column here. That we have two columns side by side because we have a wide screen, wide. Right? What happened here? What the difference between this layout and this layout? The difference is we got rid of one column. That means we have this column here. So we have this projects, new project, right? Description, description. Start dates, due dates, days elapsed. Start date, due date, days elapsed. Right? Completion, completion. So we have all of, all of those things is running, the due dates, the buttons to go back to the list. Click here, right? So we have this, right? So what happened here is that we got rid of one column completely, the column on the right. That means the column here. We got rid of this totally. But we didn't got rid of everything, right? We didn't, actually. What we did, we made, we hide the column and we made the layouts to be, instead to be two column or to be three column, because here, for example, in this one, it's a two column layouts. It's a three column layout, 1, 2, and 3, right? So if I want to make this for an iPad comfortable, okay, I just need to get rid of this and do this, right? And I'm going to do that. I'm going to build in front of you. I'm going to build the layout for this one, and we are going to build it for iPad. That the exercise tomorrow, right? That layout, we are going to make it for iPad. It won't be workable, but I'm going to show you the principle, what happened in your head, okay? But you need to understand what's going on here. So we pretty much say free task, zero resource, zero post, okay? So when you click on the task here, you click here on the task. Why cannot go to the task? I don't know why. What happened? When I click on the task here on the desktop, I go to a task detail. So I was on the project details. Project has tasks. When I click on task, I have task details. I have the detail of that task. Here we have exactly the same, but we do the same, right? That means we have, here we have one column, two columns, right? And here we have one column only, one, right? And what happened? We take the both columns, and we move them. Pretty much this is what we do. We did this. We did this pretty much we select this, and we moved on the bottom of this. And we resize. That means it was side by side on two columns. Now it's all on one vertically, right? Right? So it's one column now. It was side by side on two columns. Now it's side by side, right? So this is how it works. That means here I have everything, and I can scroll my iPad. So I have exactly the same as here. The task, the status, start date, due date, elapsed time, to everything. So, I have the same, the task, the description, due date, all the completion, and I have the resource exactly like I have here. I have the resource that were side by side on the desktop layouts. Everything was side by side, and the second column was split in two. Now it's not split in two. It's like we did this. Not only we did this, but it's like we do like this. We remove this. So we move this, right? And we put like this. So now it's like we have everything vertical. Instead to be side by side and one column split in two with a slide control, right? We separate everything and we got everything aligned in one unique column, right? Like this. So we have the task information, we have the resource information, and we have their post information, right? So this is how it's done. The difference between iPad and desktop is just the real estate and how you're going to present things. Why? It's because look what Apple is doing here. We can scroll up and down, no problem. But when we play, we want everything in one layout, right? When we edit, we can just go up and down like this. So if we need more real estate, we have unlimited real estate by using the verticality. Okay, so using the screen, the iPad screen, right, to the iPad screen to expand the real estate. On the computer, we don't like too much to scroll because this is not that comfortable. On an iPad, we scroll, up, down, up, down, up, down. We do that all the time. Scroll, 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 right? That's what we do, and especially on the iPhone, right? So that being said, why I'm showing you this? Because on an iPad and an iPhone, if you want more real estate, if you want more things, if you want to display more things on the layouts, don't compress things and don't add small buttons next to each other. And no, expose them like a spread like a bread, like a butter on the spread. spread it on the layout and go and scroll. We don't care. Especially now that we have like this, for example, we have and that's the reason why FileMaker came with new what's the name, parts, layout parts, like the top navigation, right? Because now we have layout parts that behaves correctly. Like, for example, I scroll up and down, but I can go back without to go back, right? I can up and down. Right? And of course, remember that when we scroll down like this, and if you want to go up, right, you tap here on top of the screen and you go up. That's the natural behavior of the iPhone and iPad. So even though you scroll lots up and down like this, if you down like this, tap on top and you go back up, right? Also, that to show you before we go, you remember about what I call the accessibility, accidentability. Okay, can I delete the contact here? Do you see delete? No, we can delete the contacts. If I want to delete the contact from here, I need to edit and go, edit and go completely down. And then I have delete. And then I need to confirm, right? So all of this, tomorrow we are going to see more of this, right? So I don't know if we have any question. If we don't, we can just go.
I don't see any questions, so I think we're good. I'm gonna double check on Twitch real fast, but pretty sure. Yeah, okay, I think we're good. Thank you so much, Nick. Well, hold on. I'll let people type real fast, make sure nothing.
Yeah, David and John, I don't know what's typing, but David and brother man.
Yes, thank you.
Thanks. Okay. So we don't have any questions?
Nope, I think we're good, and I think you're free.
Yeah. It was just, okay, today was information about principle, the difference between the iPad. I will make the theme between the iPhone, and because it's important to, to learn this before I start further. And tomorrow we are going to move things, and Thursday we are going to talk about navigation because it's very important.
Yes, right? That would be awesome. Thank you very much, Nick. I greatly appreciate it. We greatly appreciate it. I'm going to share my desktop and run the credits.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
See you tomorrow.
Yes. See everyone tomorrow.
Got a report of an individual up here who may be a FileMaker license. Well, it's potentially expired. Look at the back of that car right there. Looks like the FileMaker license has expired. Sir, I need you to step out of the vehicle. Sir, step out of the vehicle. Sir!